Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video, it's almost time for the start of the NRL season, so we're going to do our team reveal for NRL SuperCoach in the 2026 season. So obviously, round one goes over a couple of weeks, so there may be a few changes. But basically, this is the team I'm going to lock in going into Vegas. I've got a bit of a busy weekend. I might have shot myself in the foot a little bit and might actually miss the Bulldogs game this week. But you can always watch the replay. So I'm probably not going to play around with the team too much in the next couple of days unless there is some major news to one of the four teams over there, and in particular, I guess, the players in my squad. So I guess also because of that, this is the last chance to sort of do the big reveal. So I thought I'd use the opportunity to do that. So we'll start at hooker and we'll work our way down. So starting hooker, I'm going to go with Reed Marnie. I think, just the more minutes that he should get at the Cowboys, he's not going to go and be an 80-minute hooker every week. I think depending on match situation, he could get 80. But just also the fact that he's probably going to get a few more stats just in tackles because of the new stats provider. The fact that he might get a bit more opportunity to be an attacking weapon at the Cowboys instead of just a distributor like they wanted him to be at the Bulldogs. So I think all signs point to Reed Marnie, and I'm going to lock him in, play him in Vegas, and not worry about it. The bench is slightly different, though, with the injury to Brandon Smith. I know some people are just going to carry him, but I think that's always a risk. The best ability in this game, I reckon, is availability. So I'm going to go with Jake Simpkin. So very similar sort of profile to Marnie, probably due to get a few more minutes this season. And again, particularly dependent on circumstance, he could play 80 minutes there at the Eagles. So happy to lock him in at 400k. The front row, I don't think there's any real surprises. Payne Haas, number one front row in the game, potentially number one SuperCoach player in the game, depending how you look at it. And then we're going all the way down to Trey Mooney, lock him in the starting team for Vegas. I think I had Couchman there in the last team update, but with the news of Brandon Smith being out, I had to sort of cut some funds somewhere, and I think Couchman was a casualty of that. On the bench, going with Colquhoun and Paseka, that hasn't changed either. So Colquhoun gets a good run at the lock position for a few weeks until Cam McInnes returns, and then after that we'll see. And Paseka should just walk straight back in as the starting front rower, the leader of the pack there at Manly. In the second row, so I guess we'll do the obvious ones. If I can find him. Dave Fafita is locked in. Don't need to say too much about him, I don't think. I'm going with Heilum Lukey. I do like, his upside. And again, just play in Vegas, lock him away, happy days. And then I'll put the three cheapies in. So we're going to go with Paxton, going to go with Couchman, and at the moment, going to go with Bye. So Paxton, Couchman have sort of been a staple on my second row bench this preseason. Paxton getting the start at the Gold Coast, potential to play 80 on that edge. Ryan Couchman, I think, will sort of emulate his brother and become a big minute forward there in the rotation. I think they're just easing him into it, given that he is coming back from a big injury. And Cooper Bye, I think, is going to be a bit of a slow burn option on the bench. But I think he's one we can just set there and hopefully his role expands throughout the season. So we'll see how much money we have left in terms of our final decision there. But in the halves, we're going with Nathan Cleary. And I'm going to put Atkinson on the bench and find him. So probably not going to play him in Vegas, given that he is up against the Bulldogs, whose defense was number one last season. But other than, I guess, a brief moment when he looked like he was going to be suspended, Cleary hasn't left my team. Yeah, captain option depending on the matchup. Um, yeah, solid scorer. Happy to have him in the team. 5/8, so this is pretty much the same. Munster and Pezzett. Probably talked enough about these guys in the preseason, but Munster's going to probably be number one option. Although with Fletcher Sharp named in the six, I am intrigued. But happy just to plug and play Munster. Pezzett off the bench when Munster's on the bye. Happy days. Centre wing. So we're sticking with the big guns: Herbie Farnworth, Kale Iro, Val Holmes, and if we go down a little bit more, Brian Toto. So this hasn't really changed for a while. Particularly with the new rules with the try assist, you think that helps centres such as Farnworth, Iro, and Holmes. Some people faded Toto because of that, but I just think he offers value at 600k. So I'm happy to lock him in. Obviously, if Kiraz wasn't on a buy in round two, I'd probably flip him with Holmes. But I think Holmes has a buy in round four or something like that. It's pretty early. Might be round five potentially. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, it's not till round nine. So not as early as I thought. So that's all right. We can, plenty of time to get Kiraz in. And then the bench cheapies, I'll go by most owned. Just going with the three that we're pretty confident are locked in. Seti 2 and Tom Chester are named, and very confident on Fayamani at the Gold Coast. Pretty confident on Makasini, but he does give us a bit of an out in round four before his price goes up, that we can sort of flip one of our guns if they're underperforming, or obviously if one of our cheapies like Tom Chester gets benched once Labert comes back, it's a pretty easy swap there. The fullbacks, so going with Drinkwater and Kinney, nothing too different there. Drinky, we like the fixture. He looked good in the trial. Enough said. Kinney, we think can offer great value at his price point. And then in the flex, I don't know how deep I'm going to have to go here in the ownership because I think he's slid a bit. I don't know, 32%. Ethan Sanders. So we are going with the double halfback strategy. And I'm playing Sanders over Atkinson in week one because the Raiders play Manly, who probably don't have the strongest forward pack going around. I guess also, with Jamal Fogarty there, instead of DC, there's new combinations and stuff. So I think the Raiders are going to get off to a good start this season, and I think Sanders could benefit from that. So if we have a look, it gives us 519k to spend on a second rower. And I haven't exactly decided where to go. Obviously, Hamish Stewart is one we have to commit to if we're going to go it. But for now, I think I'm just going to go with Jermaine Hopgood. 15% owned, so a little bit of a pod, but also the dual position flexibility is nice. I'll actually put him on field. We think there's a bit of value there. Might be a bit of a stepping stone to get to a Couchman, for example, if he doesn't get away, or I guess whatever second row keeper we potentially want. So that's the squad. In terms of the team setup, so I'm actually going to play Setu 2 just because I was going to put him in as a reserve. Actually, I'll save the team first. So Brian Ty gets a reserve. Fayamani as well, I think, is going to score okay. So I'm going to back him in. And then the fourth reserve, we've paid up. So we'll play Jake Simpkin on field. Does mean we don't play these two, any of the second rowers or the halves. But we are playing Sanders as a cheap half. So that's fine. And then vice captain on Drinkwater. We're backing the Cows to beat the Dragons this weekend, so hopefully Drinky's a big part of that. And then Payne Haas as captain. Just keep it nice and safe for round one. Nothing too fancy there. So that's the team. I guess just quickly before I wrap up, there is a spot opened up in the first league. Someone's lost faith already in the Nuff, but that's okay. So anyone wants to jump in that first league, it's usually the first one to pop up on the screen and all, so you can get a bit of get a bit of FaceTime on the internet, perhaps. But the code there is 324871. But I will put the link for the fifth league in. I was a bit optimistic opening up the fifth league, if I'm being honest. Only picked up 6 entries so far, but I'll leave it for another 24 hours. So probably tomorrow night at some point, I will work out how many we've got. I might plug in a couple of the experts if we need to make up numbers or we've got an odd number of teams. But yeah, last chance to get that. I'll put the link in the description for that. Or you can use that code there, 870809. And also the Open League, I'm going to just leave that open. People can join in even after Vegas, potentially. So 668, 603 for the Open League if you don't want to necessarily play head-to-head. If you're in one of the other head-to-head leagues and you want to jump in the fifth one too, feel free. We'll try and fill it up as best we can. But like I said, if not, we can use those quote-unquote experts, which I'm certainly not amongst them. I don't ever suggest to be an expert, just a veteran who enjoys chatting about it. So we'll wrap the video up there. As always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the SuperCoach NRL content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we will catch you in the next one.